Welcome back to the channel, everyone, and if you're new here, welcome. As returning viewers probably know, horror games are one of my two favorite genres of video games, and for the month of October this year, that's pretty much all I played. Well, that and very patiently getting through Metaphor ReFantazio, which I will be reviewing eventually, but yeah, I beat a ton of horror games to usher in the season of scares. I did play both the original Silent Hill 2 and Silent Hill 2 Remake, which were both excellent in their own ways, but today I wanted to talk about indie horror games, which were predominantly the games that I finished in October. If you like this style of content, make sure to give it a like and maybe subscribe, and if you want to see more of my reviews or other gaming related content, hit that little bell icon so you never miss a video. I'm not going to waste any more of your time with an intro here, so let's just get right into it. Without further ado, these are 5 indie horror games that you need to play if you haven't already. First up on the list is a game that I found through this comment on my last video about horror games that you should play, and one that I remembered when I was browsing the PlayStation Store sales around Halloween. That is Still Wakes the Deep. This game follows Scottish oil rig worker Kaz McCleary, who used this job to flee from an assault charge back in his homeland. With his personal life back home in tatters, a divorce most likely on the horizon, and a lot of personal baggage, Kaz spends his days keeping his head down and working as an electrician on board the rig. This personal life catches up with him, however, and just as he's losing his job and settling on going home to face his punishment, the oil rig crew drill into something. Horrifying events start to unfold as Kaz and the other survivors fight to get off the rig. This game is a short, punchy horror experience that really excelled in creating an interesting narrative and main character to go alongside it.
Go and fetch Mary.
You can hear me, can you?
As everything unfolds and the terrifying creatures on the ship hunt down Kaz and his crew members, some really tense moments and really close encounters make for some excellent atmosphere and tension. And as an American, I really appreciated that the subtitle options included one that translated the various Scottish slang phrases into something that made more sense to me, and I found that level of inclusion to be a really thoughtful touch. There's only a few visual issues I had with the game, which were how some of the monsters' floppy tentacle bits would kind of just flip out sometimes, but other than that, this game is one that you have to play if you like those horror games where hiding and running are the name of the game, and fighting back is not an option. Crow Country is a game I covered in my last video of 10 short horror games to play for Halloween, which you can find a link to in the description below, but I had to cover it again as I just can't say enough good things about it. Crow Country set out to steal the hearts of the lovers of the golden era of survival horror games. Its story is set in 1990 and puts us in control of Special Agent Mara Forrest as she arrives on scene at the abandoned amusement park near Atlanta, Georgia called Crow Country. Her mission is to find the owner of the park, Edward Crow, who has disappeared. However, any hopes that this would be an open and shut case to solve are dashed as Mara runs into horrifying humanoid creatures known as guests. The story is a little predictable, but it's still enjoyable, the characters are interesting, and the developer managed to capture the tense and dark vibes of the survival horror classics while not feeling too dated or sluggish. I'm not going to spend too much more time covering this game in this video because I've already done that before, but yeah, if you like the survival horror games of days past, this is a great modern take on the genre. Yet another retro-style horror game that I can't talk enough about is Signalis. Signalis is a sci-fi survival horror game developed by Rose Engine. While Crow Country focused on the gameplay elements mainly of what people love about the PS1-style horror games, Signalis took those things and also presented a mind-bending story that focused on the psychological components of horror that makes games like Silent Hill 2 so beloved. This game is actually what made survival horror click for me. I had spent a long time trying to get into horror games, and while I did enjoy the original Silent Hill, I wasn't really sure what people saw in the gameplay loop that everyone cited as being so profound or special. With Signalis, I'm not really sure what it is, but everything just clicked, and this is actually what propelled me into playing the original Silent Hill 2 finally. I started to have that love of sneaking through areas full of grotesque horrors waiting to attack me, my limited ammunition causing for a bit of panic as my bullets started to run dry, and a feeling of never really truly being safe. It just all started to come together for me. For the first time ever, I found myself genuinely looking forward to having free time to sink into a horror game that's like this. And I think that's just because of its high quality and the amount of things going for it. There's the anime-style pixel art cutscenes that are just gorgeous and do a wonderful job in highlighting our deep dive into Elser's psyche, memories, and fears. There's the tight map designs complete with cramped corridors and plenty of flesh walls looking to block your progress. There is the excellent survival horror gameplay mechanics that really make for an entertaining, intense battle of resource management and learning when to fight and when to conserve resources and run, and the multiple endings that are all achieved in the different ways that you play the game, much like I said before, the Silent Hill games. Every aspect of Signalis works together to make a complete package that helped me finally understand why so many people find a coziness and love for these darker survival horror games. It's a cerebral and brutal look into humanity, love, and connection, and I think it does way more than enough to earn your attention. Fears the Fathom Woodbury Getaway is the newly released closing to Developer Rail's horror anthology that sees players taking on the role of various people who are explaining a horrifying encounter as if they were sharing it on a forum or on a subreddit. This particular title has us as the player living through a nightmarish vacation as 23-year-old office worker Sydney Harper. Sydney and her friends have planned to rent a cabin in Woodbury, a small community, to get away from the grind of their daily lives. Upon arriving, everything seems normal in the quaint and tiny town, and while they might be blocked in by a snowstorm, there isn't too much cause for concern. It isn't long, however, until the creepy owner begins to make it seem as though something is terribly wrong here. There were some new mechanics added to this one, though it is much in line with the rest of the series, as that it involves hiding, running, and staying quiet to avoid detection. This wasn't my favorite episode of the series, but in no way is it bad in my opinion. It still does a great job in providing a short and creepy experience, as players have to think on their feet to find different hiding spots all over the cabin. If you haven't played a Fears the Fathom game before, they're basically walking simulators that feature different mechanics, plots, and puzzles from episode to episode, and I personally really enjoy the series. So yeah, I can totally recommend this whole series to you if you really like shorter horror games and you like things that kind of have that touch of internet creepypasta in their storytelling. At number 5 is the game that I've beaten the most recently on this list, and this brand new horror game has gone fairly under the radar, it seems, with it only having less than 80 reviews at the time of writing. Now, of these reviews, many have really seemed to enjoy the concept of this game, and I have to say, it is an interesting take on that slender 8 pages sort of formula. In Crowded Followed, players take the role of a homeless man who becomes entangled in a horrifying cycle of terror as a dying man passes off a briefcase to him. The briefcase is locked tight, and the mysteries it holds are not to be discovered. The man shares one bit of information with us that he can. It wants the briefcase, and it will stop at nothing to get the briefcase back. The it in question is this tall, lanky woman who slowly and relentlessly chases the player throughout the dense crowds of the game. She can take the form of any of the random civilians around her and will hunt you down until the briefcase is hers. Oh, and to make matters worse, our homeless hero has been cursed with the lungs of a person who's been chain-smoking Black and Mild since they were 7 years old. This means that an inhaler is the most important tool in our arsenal, but it does take quite a few shakes to get it ready to dispense medication. This setup leads to some really close encounters with the entity as you're fighting to keep your lungs full and your feet moving, as you gather various pieces to each level that allows you to progress and hopefully get away from this city and this presence. Now, this isn't very long at all. I think I beat it in under 2 hours, though I did think that its take on things like It Follows and the walking simulator horror games where you have to gather various items all while trying to outpace and outsmart an enemy were overall really engaging. There's some awesome ideas here. It's a pretty simple gameplay loop, and it does offer a really creepy enemy design with an overall fast-paced and claustrophobic experience where pushing through the crowd sometimes leads you right into the reach of the demonic thing chasing you. Now, I haven't streamed on Twitch for over a year, and I actually just changed that recently, and Crowded Followed was the game that I made my return to Twitch on. The link to my Twitch channel will be in the description below, but yeah, be on the lookout in the community tabs page and on my Instagram to find out when I'm going to stream, and I would love to have you over there. And that is it for the 5 indie horror games that I have finished recently that I recommend you give a try. Have you played any of these games? Let me know what your thoughts are on any of them, or maybe even send me some suggestions that I could cover in future videos in the comments below. Once again, if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe and hit that bell icon so you never miss a future upload. Until next time, take care of yourselves, Ploopa Troops. Peace.